Curious, to kind of bring it back on topic, for one of the interesting perspectives that brings up an interesting question that brings up interesting perspectives is, how do you think PulseX will do against PulseChain on a 7 to 10 year time frame? Time frame is important because that kind of takes away like the whole like narrative pumps and stuff like that, like actual tokenomics long term.
I think that the chain always wins the L1 in the end on that part, especially against the DEX. I love both products, obviously, but that longer time frame, I'm going with L1.
Tricky. I mean, I just dropped those figures on you guys. How like Ethereum and Uniswap basically have the same 7-day average fees at 3.5 billion, so they're formidable to each other in terms of, because one of them fees directly pump price, one of them fees just make it more scarce, and we know PulseX is the one where fees will go to buy and burn. Did I say PulseX? Yeah, PulseX. And PLS will be the one where the more fees you have on the network, the more coins are burned through fee burning, but that doesn't necessarily directly pump the price as a buy order on the open market. It just increases scarcity over the long term, which is a fundamental. So over a long-term time frame, I mean, this is a cop-out, but we haven't seen DEXs exist for 7 to 10 years. Hell, I mean, even Ethereum's only 7 years old. So it's a very hard question. But given, again, the fees over the last 7 days, I think I wouldn't bet one against the other. I'd say they're in similar standing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. It's very hard to determine long-term what they're going to do. Because, I mean, like, Uni did, I guess it would have been, it's like a 107.8x, looks like, from its bottom in 229 days, 107x. And I mean, what would have happened with Uni if every single transaction that went through Uni pumped the price of Uni, and Uni was also basically made to funnel all of the liquidity on the chain into Uni in the beginning and started Uni way ahead of the pack with liquidity. I mean, and it basically forced everyone to go through Uni. What would its ROI look like now? And I think it would be quite different.
Do some math right now. You can do that math, dude.
Let's do it. Yeah, I want to know. Because, I mean, the thing that I'm thinking of, really, I did the math a while ago on what PLS would burn. Because, I mean, if you look at the 25% burning and then what IEP 1559 brought into and what actually is burned in addition to that 25%, it is more than 25%, but it's not that much. Even when you calculate like a block completely using all of its capacity up to the gas limit, up to even like the 80 million mark, there's not that much PLS that's being burnt in comparison to PLSX. I think over a year, in just rough estimation, was like, it was under 1 million. It was under 1 million pulse tokens were burnt on a very conservative estimate, but still, it wasn't like it was astronomical. Obviously, that's not PLS's value proposition, is to deflate at a crazy rate, but still. So PulseX is very interesting. You know, it's got a crazy mechanic to pump itself while you've got the incredible utility, like the primary utility on chain is the pulse token, you know, so I don't even know how to put those head to head.
I'd throw another angle in here, which is competition. DEXs tend to be a little bit easier to spin up than L1s as far as the scale that we're looking at with Pulse and stuff. So I would say that if anything, if there wasn't any competition, there would be more competition on the Pulse X side for market share, and that may eat into the tokenomics as well versus Pulse.
Right.
Yeah. So the thing you kind of have with DEX is all of these tokenomics of the other DEXs are absolute garbage. I mean, it's such a hard comparison. I mean, it's all
I think PancakeSwap might have figured some stuff out, but that's about it. Yeah, most of them not so much.
But PancakeSwap, my God, that's like a Rube Goldberg machine if you start looking into that, like tokenomics, you know.
Yeah.
So it's so damn interesting, man. Like deflationary DEX, the fact that you have a community of net buyers. So one of the things that I kind of like saying is, so with the single size staking in PLSX, where you get other tokens that launch on the chain and give a percentage of their supply, yada yada. you essentially have an entire community of people who are probably going to sell down a percentage or keep the tokens, whatever they want to buy tokens they like. And we can assume that they like PLSX because they're in a single size staking pool with PLSX. So instead of creating a community of net sellers where they keep the principal and sell the yield, you essentially create a community of net buyers where they sell the yield to buy back into principal. It's like an entirely different thing. It's deflationary with net buyers instead of inflationary with net sellers.
Well, I'll say the big leg up for PulseX is the third-party tokens too, relieving that kind of sell pressure. That's a game changer, something that Pulse doesn't quite have natively, at least. So I give points to PulseX on that one.
It's going to be one. I think it's going to get very mind-bending in like 5 years. Because in the beginning, it's kind of a given that the L1 will do better just based off narrative alone. But then if you kind of get rid of like it's a new L1, and then because like the thing that Gerardo shared is so interesting with the fees. I mean, that's an indicator, man. I mean, it's crazy. I'm super bullish on PulseChain.
Do you do the master on it?
CryptoFees.info.
Okay.
Is where you can see the fees. No, I did actually just finish the math. So okay, I'll run you guys through the math so you know like how I got to where I got. So I just went on uniswap.info and you can see the fees. I clicked on the monthly and added them all up, and it looks like over the last year, $600 billion of volume. All right. So then I did the math on that and did the whole 0.06% of fees goes into buy pressure, and if you do that, that's about I can't remember the intermediate step numbers. Let me try again real quick. Divided by 100 times, what did I take, 600 billion?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a lot of zeros. We're talking about an extra $360 million of buy pressure.
I mean,
right?
That's a lot of buy pressure.
And,
That's a lot of buy pressure.
If you apply that to Uni's current liquidity pool of about
Yes.
8 million on the bid side, 360 over 8 is 45, but we know it acts as a function of a square. So that's 45 times 45 is roughly 2,000. So about 2,000x higher if it had PulseX type mechanics. So we'd see Uni at like 10 grand right now. That's assuming no sell pressure, right? But
10 grand Uni.
Wow.
Yeah. Hundreds of millions in buy pressure.
So the thing, I'm gonna play devil's advocate on that.
Sure.
What do you think is going to be liquidity size pool for PulseX? Because we're launching with a sacrifice set. I think it's going to be above 100 million.
To start,
might scale in, but I think it's going to be a lot.
What makes you say 100
too
million?
much liquidity, right? So that you can pump. But if you start at a high enough rate, maybe you don't need the pump. So. I don't know.
Where'd you get the 100 million from? I just want to understand where you had that number from, just so I'm on the same page as you.
Yeah, so it's like a random correlation kind of made in my mind because like as humans we like looking for patterns, and when the testnet launched, they kind of scaled in liquidity, right? So the sacrifice for PulseX was roughly like $1 billion, bit more than $1 billion, on like without TOA, and that is, I think the liquidity pool on testnet after the liquidity got scaled in was roughly 600 million for PulseX. Roughly 600 million plus also for like Pulse. Yeah, I'm curious, man. I don't think it's going to be as low as Hex is currently because also the